McShane, I want to get a read on all of this and whether the Republicans are on the same, at least, choir book page here with Patrice Onwuka, the Independent Women's Forum, the senior fellow there, and Sarah Westwood, Washington Examiner, White House correspondent. Sarah, obviously some difference of opinion there among Republicans, maybe first led by Rand Paul, the Kentucky senator, who was telling me last week, I'm all for repealing Obamacare, just not the way we're going about it, by using a budget resolution that will make deficits and debt worse. Who's winning this argument?
Well, certainly if Rand Paul is the only holdout for a budget resolution, then the Republicans who want to repeal immediately are going to win that argument. But look, here's the biggest problem with repeal now and replace later strategy. Repealing Obamacare through budget reconciliation will only take 51 votes, which Republicans in theory have. In the Senate, any kind of replacement is going to take 60 votes. That means all 52 Republicans are going to have to be unified behind a single strategy, and they're going to need 8 Democrats at least to get behind that strategy as well. That's going to be tough. It's going to take time when Democrats are in no hurry to cooperate with Republicans, and it's going to put millions of Americans at risk of losing their coverage if the Senate can't work it out in time, and Democrats are going to know that. They're going to use that as leverage. You know, Patrice, it seems like that Republicans didn't think this through, that a lot of people would agree with them that there are a lot of awkward things with this law, but repealing it without having a replacement in place would lay them open to this type of criticism. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it certainly has, but let's look at the marketplace. There are lots of different suggestions that have been made over the years, and I think the idea that some Republicans have is that, you know, instead of a one-size-fits-all huge government solution, you know, let's look at some of the different pieces that can be repealed.
Oh, no, I agree with you on that. To Sarah's point, I'm sorry I wasn't clear, but they would all require the type of things that they would have to come up with, whether they're market solutions or with 60 votes, to make those changes, right?
Yeah, they would. And so, I mean, there are a couple of other concerns that some conservatives have, which include things like defunding Planned Parenthood, whether they're able to hold on to some conservatives who are not willing to vote against that. So I think at the end of the day, though, you know, Republicans, conservatives have a mandate from, you know, their voters who've said we want to replace, repeal, get rid of Obamacare, which has been onerous on us, and increase the cost of health care. Recent polling just points to Americans who still find that the out-of-pocket costs of health care have risen, and Obamacare has done nothing to address that.
You know, Patrice, one of the things that will come up with this, or Sarah, I should say, is that you're going to have these 20-plus million folks who have insurance who can't be left at the altar. They have to have something. Well, that's sort of the summation here, which means that if you don't have something to replace it with right at the get-go, time is on further sign-ups' side. By that, I mean Democrats will argue, we're going to keep signing people up under this thing. And it could be, by the time Republicans come around with an alternative plan, 30 million people have insurance, 35 million. What do you think of that?
That's exactly right. They're setting themselves up to have this kind of health care cliff whereby they have to pull the trigger on some kind of replacement, or else that increasing number of people who are covered under these insurance programs will lose their insurance, and that doesn't put Republicans in a particularly good position to negotiate. If they repeal without a replacement ready to go, any disruptions to the health care market are going to be amplified as a byproduct of the Republicans' chaotic approach to this equation. If a replacement and a repeal bill are put forward at the same time, then disruptions to the market can be framed as sort of a growing pains of a new and better system. But what they don't want is focus on every little ripple in the healthcare market to be basically putting blame on Republicans for creating those disruptions by not having a replacement in place. Yeah. They're setting themselves up for a tough fight.
Which was Rand Paul's argument, but that might be too little too late. They're going to go full throttle with this, Patrice. But obviously, it would seem to me that Mitch McConnell could put a stop to this by delaying this, but it would be a black eye for Republicans if he did, wouldn't it?
Well, it's one of the biggest things that have coalesced the entire conservative movement, getting rid of Obamacare. And I think President-elect Trump is interested certainly in pushing this over the goal line. This is an unprecedented opportunity that the conservative movement has. And so to bypass it, to push it back any further, opens us up, as you just mentioned, to opportunities for it to be slowed down and, you know, thwarted.
All right, we'll watch closely. It would be the first time such a huge government program would be torpedoed this way. Hasn't happened, but there's always a first time. Ladies, thank you very, very much.